Hey, yo, Neil. Hey, what's up? I got you. Got you. Yeah. R.I.P. Grammy. Free my brother. It's free to his back. Look.
All right, welcome to another edition of One Mic here on Real Sports Guys. I'm your man D Wilson, the building, hanging here with my man Darnell Kirkland Jr. When Hammer is off on assignment, so we'll get on into the proceedings. What's up, man? How you doing?
Oh, my bad. I muted the wrong. You muted the wrong mic. All right, yeah, I'm doing all right. Sunday, getting into that week here, but transitioning to a new role at the job. You know, so I'm in a little bit of a transition, but I feel good. God's good, and you know, ready to get into the show. Got a lot of things to talk about.
Yeah, a lot going on in the larger national scale, and we won't get too much into it. But yeah, it's been a crazy few weeks here, but we good. Like you said, God is good, and we're here with you, and we're gonna keep it moving. And we just like to officially welcome y'all to the underground. This is where we are. We off site. We just catch over here in the corner having a conversation, and we like to do it. And for those of you who like it, please like us, subscribe where you find us social media, or you can hit us up on realsportsguys.com. We appreciate what's going on. There's a lot going on the block in sports world. Before we get in, the heart of this show, we'll be talking about NBA free agency, but we always like to provide a little bit of stuff just on what might be hitting the top of our heads here in the sports world. Um, Man, I didn't finish watching the fight, but for those of you who haven't been following us, Darnell's like our resident guru. Like this kid, you'll find out he's got a lot of talent. He's a young man, but his passion in boxing is second to none. Probably only to his dedication to being the best football coach he can be, and the way he works around that. But Jared Anderson, Midwest Stand Up, Toledo, Ohio's own, had a big fight yesterday, and I didn't watch it, didn't know at the end, but I'm assuming but he was tested. He was tested, man. I mean, the hometown crowd. So I don't know how I ended. Cause I'm like, I had to jump on here the podcast. So it was round 10, but the way that fight was going, nobody was safe until the end. But he's a young, talented person. But it was the right kind of step up for him. Getting the fight that he got in terms of being able to. I keep forgetting my guy's name. Who was a former champion, really pushed him in a way. You get a chance to watch that fight?
Yeah, I watched the fight. I meant to go down to the fight, but
Yeah.
I ended up working. I ended up working last night, so I didn't end up going out there. But yeah, Jared Anderson is talented heavyweight prospect coming up out of Toledo, Ohio. Just about 40, 45 minutes away from where I'm from. It's an easy drive down there, straight down 23. But Jared Anderson, he's at that stage where he's transitioning from being a prospect to being a contender. And to me, a big thing a lot of guys have to deal with in the transition from being a prospect to a contender is the transition between trying to look good and trying to win fights, right? Because when you're a prospect, you just getting on TV, you trying to build your fan base, you want highlight reel knockouts, you want the media and the press to be talking about you. So he's doing a lot of flashy stuff, He likes to appeal to the crowd, do all that kind of stuff. But when you mature in the game and you fight better competition, you got to be more, got to be more focused. And he wasn't really like showboating a lot in there, but he was making like some defensive mistakes. He likes to pull back a lot when he defends. He relies a lot on his reflexes because he is an athletic heavyweight. He's athletic, but one of the cardinal rules is you don't want to pull straight back, especially when he was pulling straight back, with his hands down. He could get caught with a straight left, okay? Because especially because Charles Martin is a southpaw, and
Mhm.
he learned that. But the interesting thing about this fight is, Jared Anderson, he has the ability to switch. And one thing I took away from this fight is maybe he might have to take a page out of Terrence Crawford's book, because in
Hmm.
Terrence Crawford fights southpaws, he fights them as a southpaw. So that takes away that southpaw's advantage of the straight left, because that right hand is already up in the way.
Hmm.
And that was the key adjustment in this fight, is because when you notice whenever he turned southpaw,
Hmm.
Martin wasn't able to land the straight left hand because the angle wasn't there. So just like small stuff like that, not yeah, small stuff like that. But I think really for him it's a mentality. Like mentality is, I gotta lock in and really focus on winning this round. I don't have to be flashy. I don't have to impress the judges really. Well, you gotta impress the judges for the fight, but I don't really have to impress the fans and all that kind of stuff. Because if I win, the right things are gonna come. I think that's really what's going on with Jared Anderson. He was tested in a fight where he really, if you look at the resume and stuff like that, he shouldn't be tested in, because of, you know, Charles Martin. He was a former champion, but the way he won the championship was a very fluke way. He won a vacant belt, right? And in the fight for a vacant championship, the guy he was fighting actually tore his ACL in the ring, and he beat an injured fighter. In the next fight, his very next fight, he fought Anthony Joshua and got knocked out in 2 rounds. So Charles Martin, he has the distinction of being a champion, but he wasn't necessarily one of the champions that really did much in the game. Also, he just came off of getting knocked out by a 50-year-old Luis Ortiz. I don't know how old Luis Ortiz actually is, but you
But
know
but
he's long
get
in the
beat by
tooth.
but get beat by Luis Ortiz. Half the cats don't want to fight him.
Well, they want to fight him now because he's washed. He's washed at this point. Um, he was able to hold on for a very long time, but now it's over uh, for Luis.
and, and they had a young man on the undercard with Abdullah Mason, who I never
Abdullah
seen
Mason,
fight.
he's also from Ohio.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
saw him. I've seen him fight several times. He's very talented. He was very sharp, but he's gonna be good. But the thing about these fights are, he's not fighting anybody. He's fighting Ricardo from CVS. I mean, you don't know. We don't know exactly what he is now, but back in the day, back when you were growing up watching boxing, these fights weren't on TV. These fights were the fights that they'll fight the local stadiums and stuff like that to build build experience. So we're seeing guys very early in their career. So I'm excited about Abdullah Mason, but I
Yeah, I
have to
mean,
wait to see if he
but
until he fights some
some
real
fighters you
competition.
can see they got that dream that ring generalship. They do the right punches. Whenever I see a young fighter understand how to go to the body early, they're the patience. Even though you got somebody in front of you, you can run through. They demonstrate patience as if this somebody's a higher caliber. Like they got an approach. I know they uh, maybe it was a little bit more hyperbole. Said that he looked like the pretty boy Floyd Mayweather in terms of
They
the
say
way he
that
was
about
attacking.
every young.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
say that
they said
about
about
every
every other
young
one. But
athletic
but
fighter.
what I say about him is that you can see his ring acumen. You can see it play out. Like, okay, this because he comes from a fight family, so you can see that it's kind of like Floyd did. You can see he understands the approach to the game. And there's like a ring maturity that I like about him. Like all the things you said, I think are right on pack. But certain prospects, you can see they got like they got an old soul in the ring. Like, okay, they're not fighting like amateurs. They are, and they doing things technically that you wouldn't see a young fighter do, which led to the victory, right? And so that's the part I was impressed about him. But all the things you said, yeah, he got to step up competition, see what he looks like with that. But everything you see early on, just the blueprint, he's like, okay, this kid, and he know what to say when the fight is over. You can tell you all about his business. Um, so he's an interesting cat, man, to watch going on. Anything else on the block you've been hearing in the sports world before we jump into the heart of the conversation?
Oh, we missed the most important thing. it turns out Canelo was not fighting Jamal Charlo. He's actually fighting Jermell Charlo, the 154 champion. Um,
Now,
this
audience
is a
got to
fight that is
understand when they announced this. I'm working on see because both of us are talking. We got lives. Like you just heard Darnell saying he switched to another shift. He's got transition out of his life. I'm trying to finish this PhD. I'm up here working on a draft of a paper I got to get to my advisor, and the phone rings, and you're like, you called me and tell me about this because you had put it in the text, but I just have been pulling out all nighters like I'm a sophomore in college, trying to get some of this stuff done. So we were all wrong. Explain.
yeah. When Canelo posted this, I thought he put the wrong person on there. I was like, that's not Jamal. He got the wrong twin on there. And then you look closely. It says undisputed versus undisputed. I was like, he's really fighting Jermell Charlo, which is a fight that is long overdue. I mean, if you've been watching boxing, because if you've been watching boxing for a long time, you will remember that back when they were both at 154 and back in 2014, 2015, um, Canelo was supposed to fight Jermell Charlo. And that actually is what led to the Charlo brothers leaving Golden Boy. It's because Jermell was promised after Vadas Matarosen fight that if he were to beat Vadas
Yeah.
Matarosen, that he was promised the Canelo fight. And Canelo doesn't fight Jermell Charlo, he fights James Kirkland. And then when Oscar went back on his word, the Charlo brothers left and went to PBC. So they have history, you know. Um, for the last 5 or 6 years, Jamal's been calling up Canelo, and that's the guy that you know um the fantasy fights have been talked about. How would Canelo deal with Jamal Charlo, the taller Charlo? But now we're seeing the Jamal Charlo fight, which came out the blue and which made it even more exciting because when you saw it, you're like, really, he's fighting Jamal Charlo, and to be honest, this I'm probably more excited about this fight than Spence Crawford right now.
Mm.
It, it's because of I don't know. It's because of the freshness of it. Because we've been talking about Earl Spence and Terrence Crawford for 5 years now, 5 6 years now. It's just that when you saw that Canelo versus Jermell Charlo, it was like like saying it came out of the blue.
Yeah.
And these are both great champions, both battle tested champions that have fought tough competition. Canelo, he has the rap for being a duck. You know, he jumps around weight classes, fighting, got the takes the route of least resistance. But in doing that, he's still fighting good fighters. He did fight Triple G. He did fight Billy Joe Saunders. He did fight Caleb Plant. You know what I'm saying? Uh, if you look at his career before that, fought Mayweather. He did fight Miguel Cotto. He did fight Arizona Laura. I mean, his resume is a lot better than a lot of other guys' resumes. Probably the best resume in the sport, to be honest.
Yeah.
And then if you look at Jermell Charlo,
Yeah.
yep.
Go
And
ahead.
if you look at I'm sorry. If you look at Jermell Charlo, he's cleaned out the 154 division, even though he does have a loss to Tony Harrison. He did avenge that loss. Um, he's fought um, the who's who at 154, and he's become undisputed. So it's going to be a very interesting fight. I'm sorry, you can say what you're going to
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I mean, I think that the fight game's picking up, and this is one you can't. I agree with you. Can't sleep on this one. I think both these guys are coming ready. There's going to be a lot of pre-fight chatter around this. Um, it's going to have a lot of energy. I think we are lucky as boxing fans over the next few months. We get to see some really good fights going on. But the heart of this of this conversation is about the NBA free agency. Lots going on in the world of free agency. Kyrie makes his way back to Dallas and re-signs Van Fleet makes his way to Houston. There's a lot of movement. We got Dame finally requested trade from Portland, and so there's a lot going on. It's hard to track. I got the tracker up here as we speak. because we don't know what the next one's going to Woj. You either going to drop. You either got to look at Woj or you got to look at the tracker to figure out what's going on. We got Brooke Lopez, I believe, re-signed with Milwaukee as well. But are there any surprise for you? Are there any surprises that here initially, in these first couple of days of free agency for you?
Well, the big surprise was Dame requesting a trade. As far as the actual free agents, I didn't really see any big surprises. Did you see any?
No, I am kind of surprised that Fred. I know somebody that Fred Van Fleet went to Houston, and I just don't. I was hoping that he would go to someone that, and again, we'll talk about this later. So much of this is also complicated by the new collective bargaining agreement that is really limiting the way you can build your roster. But yeah, I mean, obviously Houston had a lot of money, but I just his runway is going to be a little bit longer, but maybe it doesn't matter. He's got a ring, and he's got a good coach down there. I think he can see the bones of it, and obviously tax free in Texas, and Houston's not a bad place to live, particularly if you black in America. So there's a lot of, but I was thinking he might end up in a place where they might be on the cusp of challenging the title. So not totally surprised, but surprised that Houston, but I think Houston probably is a team that had the right money.
They definitely had the right money, and
Yeah,
Ime and them are they're looking for
yeah,
some veterans to
yeah,
kind of build that roster and build that culture down
yeah.
there in
It's a
Houston.
great
So
thing for Houston. I mean, I was scared to have Harden come back there. I was like, but that was more of a bargaining chip. But I mean, he's the right person to be with those young guys in that locker room with all that talent. You're right on. Um, like who? I mean, who do you see kind of really setting themselves up? As I was thinking about the question between the kind of the draft and the early moves, are really setting themselves up for next year. Anybody you see that, like, when you look at the total package of what they kind of done in this off season, it's like, okay, they kind of positioning themselves to really have a decent run in the regular season.
I like what the Lakers did. Um,
You and I
the Lake,
both like. And I get it. I was in a fog. I was trying to analyze data. I was trying to figure out reading literature on gender and racial equity in senior leadership in athletic departments. And then I turned the phone on and I'm like, what? And it was like, LeBron is what? And I'm like, I swear like I was in another world and I saw this deal. I'm with you. So you say the Lakers. What about this deal? It's so much. I mean, Rob Pelinka got to get some credit. Talk a little bit about what do you like about this?
man, the whole draft. I think they killed the draft. Jalen Hood-Schifino,
Yeah,
big guard. He can really play make. He can defend as well. You got Maxwell Lewis. They got him in the second round. He's a wing that can shoot. He has a big upside, I think, out of Pepperdine. Also, um, also in free agency, they ended up grabbing Gabe Vincent from Miami. Um, I think he's going to be a good backup guard behind
I feel like he might be the D
Russell. He
fish
might
for
start.
LeBron. I feel like he might be the
He
D
might start.
fish.
Yeah, yeah.
Go ahead.
I think he might start because I think
Yeah.
he actually probably fits better with that core than even better than D'Angelo Russell does. So I think he actually might start. They also did they brought back Rui and Austin Reeves. That was a big priority for them, and they brought in Torian Prince, another wing, just for depth. So I think I really like what they did.
Yeah, I mean, and this is like really an example of almost how you have to build a roster in this new collective bargaining agreement. In a sense, you gotta you have to rely on the strength of your coaching staff and their ability to draw out of players. It's like this is not going to be ready made. You got to see pieces that might be kind of done, but you trust your coach enough to finish it and retro and fit it. Cam Reddish is sneaky, right? In a sense that he's evolving, but he was under Thibodeau Like before he went to New York, he was on a rise, and then he got there, and Thibodeau and that old school. I'm gonna make you sit and wait, and something happened. Things just died a little bit um, when he first went
That's
over
the
to
name
New
I
York.
forgot about.
Huh?
That's the name I forgot about.
Yeah, but I think Cam Reddish is sneaky in this, man. And then you get back Austin Reeves, who I think is on the verge of continue to develop. I think he's just doing his thing. But I still think, if people don't talk about this, I think the retaining of Rui under the tutelage of LeBron is going to be something else. I'm not a big Laker fan, but I go for Pelinka. He went to Michigan, played with Glenn Rice and them, so I got to support the brother every once in a while. But that Rui piece, you saw a little bit of what he was able to do in the Denver series. You could see that he can play. I felt like he needed an off season and then a season of just being there with Darvin Ham. I just think Rui, and watching him when he was with the Zags, this kid hasn't been playing that long, but I think he got all the ability, skills, and size to do it. And I think D Russ was I think he still got something, and I think he had a bad set of games in the playoffs a little bit, but I think the Gabe Vincent piece offsets that, like you said. Whether Gabe comes off the bench or D, I think you secure that point guard position some way, and you'll get something out of it. Either way, and I think that piece is going. So yeah, I'm with you, man. I like uh,
So,
yeah.
so what do you think about the Suns? The Suns brought in Yuta Watanabe from Brooklyn. He's a very good shooter, the left-hander. He I think he shot like 44% from three. They also just now they just picked up Eric Gordon. Um, so they're rounding out that rotation there. I think they did lose Jock Landale, who they're gonna have to replace. But I think that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's trying to see transactions here. Yeah, so I'm loading up here a little bit. But so the Suns, the Suns got the core, so they had to be creative about how they were going to build it, right? Um it's about I think for them it's going to be they got a couple things going on. You got to figure out with a new coach what the philosophy is going to be. You got to sense they're going to be better defensively, right? But and I think it all comes down to what they get out of Ayton, right? They still got Ayton. I'm trying to track. Like I think Ayton is still. You don't need Ayton to be an all star, but you need Ayton to be engaged. Um, and maybe the new coaching staff can mend the fences. Like I think all of their success, no matter what the other pieces say, because Ayton is could be such a difficult player to play in the system if he plays to his potential. I think he's got a little bit of jump shoot shot. I think he can space. I think he can do a lot more off the pick and roll. I think he can do a lot more for them defensively and cover space, but he's got to be engaged. So for the Suns, all their pieces in their ability to get over the top will have a lot to do with the level of sustained engagement, I believe, of Ayton. I think that's critical, especially since you don't have Lansdale, right? So, like, I think they got pieces coming back, but I think Ayton is going to have to be the key for them in terms of how I judge their success. What about Milwaukee? Sometimes it's just about bringing the right pieces back. The fact that Milwaukee was able to bring back Middleton as well. I don't know who else they added. Let me see what they got. What do they have right here? I'm trying to see what they have. Um, I don't have all of this stuff here. Stuff is not
They
going all the way down.
re-signed Lopez and
Yeah, and
Middleton, but
yep.
they lost Joe Ingles and Javon Carter.
Yeah, so that right there is another example of when you got to figure out how to make the money work in this with this cap. Um, the fact that you might have to give some pieces up to do it, but I still like Milwaukee. I didn't hear you say Boston.
Yeah,
I think the Porzingis thing, is underrated. Like some people are like talking about health and everything else. I think one of the things that and I know JJ Redick talks about this, is now they got something that both of these guys, both Brown and Tatum, have someone they can play a two-man game with, and really do some things. And I think Porzingis has been underrated defensively in recent years in terms of his impact. When you 7'3" can do all that, but he doesn't have to carry the load the way. Because I think sometimes a big guy like that, the load can sometimes take a physical impact on you, right? And I just think that he is going to flourish. He can space the floor. In some ways, they're blessed not to get out Brogdon because I mean, so much two-man action can happen. I think the next development in this scenario is Tatum's ability to do what LeBron did, develop your game closer to the basket, do some things, diversify his attack game. I think if Tatum can do that now, he has some stuff he can be doing with Brogdon. I think they could have a lot more. I think having someone like Sam Cassell on staff is going to help to diversify and get these guys to do some different things in the offseason. Definitely brothers going to have to work on their handles, but I think the construction has unlocked the potential with their offense. I think Boston's going to be. I think Boston, that's a great move for Boston. And they got depth a little bit if they keep some of the guys. So even the way their bigs play, you're leaning less on Williams now. But if he gives you something, you might be able to manage his minutes in a different way. So I think I like a lot where they're going with some of it. And then you got White. I mean, they got so much flexibility in their roster and how they want to play, but they can play the same way with different pieces inserted in those different elements of how they play. You got to coach for the offseason, seeing this. It'd be interesting to see how the offense grows. If they still settle in for a lot of these threes and these CCRB jump shots, where Cass is just trying to hit that game point, then I will be disappointed. This roster shouldn't be attacking in that way. All right.
Yeah, I think they made
Go
some
ahead.
good moves. What do you think about Memphis? What do you think about they got Marcus Smart and brought in D Rose as a mentor.
Yeah, I think both of those guys are culture setters. And Rose is in a different way. I think Rose can relate and connect, both of them, I think, can connect to all the young core, not just Ja, but can do stuff in that locker room. But also, Rose can give you something Rose can give you a poor man's short run of what you also see with Ja off that bench with that second unit, that kind of attacking if they want to play that kind of style. Rose giving you 20 minutes. That's that give you something there. And then I always believe I've been a Smart fan since he was at Oklahoma State. Something about him caught me, and I remember incident where at Oklahoma State where somebody
With the
said some type of
fans,
racial slur to him, and he went. He just went back out. But his competitive way he gets after it, man, and the way he's expanded his game. I just think, boy, Memphis Memphis is on the radar in that little way. Like Memphis is sneaky, given all the turmoil, they got a stabilized locker room now.
yeah.
Yeah, I
I,
like that.
I think
What do you feel?
no, I think it's gonna be good.
Yeah.
Marcus Smart, he can kind of slide in between roles,
Yep.
especially because John's doing that suspension at the beginning of the year,
Yep.
so he can run point guard. He can also play with John Morant once John Morant comes back. He can fall back and play off the ball. He can defend the other team's best player.
Yep.
They did lose Dylan Brooks. Well, they chose to lose Dylan Brooks. So he could guard the other team's best player. He's still in that void for them. So I think Marcus Smart does a lot for them.
So one of the things I really love about free agency, because so much of talk radio and all these other places and podcasts will, they want to understand where Dame is going. They want to understand what Kyrie's going to do, how Kyrie going back to Dallas, and it's always the people who are out front. The thing I look for is the sneaky move. I'm like, oh, that was a nice little move. I remember last year he got injury, and then with Giannis going on, but Ingles going to Milwaukee. I was like, oh, that's a little sneaky move in terms of what he adds in terms of depth and how they might play a little bit in a way. One of the sneaky moves, a couple of them that I think are really sneaky moves. For an example of what a sneaky move might be. Bryant going down to Miami. I hit y'all up in the text. I've always been a Bryant fan, even when he was, with the Lakers. Before that, before he was there, like he started with the Lakers, they traded him away, they got back to the Lakers. Then he went over to Denver. He was in Washington for a minute. But I remember watching this kid. I went to a preseason. They have like Hoosiers Hysteria, whatever they got that when he's playing in Indiana. This guy won the 3-point contest because they have the women and the men and blah blah. And then I watch him play. I'm like, this kid's motor, man, is like I've liked him since he was in college, like watching up front. And I always felt like he just wasn't utilized. He is a Heat type cat. He about his business. He about his hustle. I think the development he can get. I think Adesanya. What am I getting? Well, I'm gonna get my boy's name.
Bam Adebayo.
Adebayo. I'm thinking MMA.
Israel Adesanya.
Israel. I'm thinking MMA. But I think he will help give depth in that place. I don't know what they're gonna do with Kevin Love, but he can knock down a jump shot. He can space the floor in ways that will be good. So that's a sneaky, especially when they're going to a place that probably knows how to use the sneak, what he does best. The other one is what we just talked about, and then I'll turn it over to you, is Vincent going to the Lakers. Like I said, I think he's going to be like LeBron's version of D-Fish. The guy got that competitive game. He can hit shots. He got that championship spirit. But he the kind of guy that LeBron needs. He gonna come to his business. He okay with being a champion in his role. You ain't got to never worry about where he at. He's been in big games. All right. He's giving you buckets. He's got a toughness with him. He's gonna try to put his nose in it. I think he'll work well in those screen games and road games. There in LA. I think he is. I think he's that kind of guy that's a glue setter. It's a sneaky move. But those are some sneaky moves. Like, what are some that you were looking at? You're like, they find on the radar. They signed a nice little deal, but nobody's really paying attention. But I think this is a nice little move.
Dude, I was gonna say the Eric Gordon for the Suns. I think he's gonna make an impact come playoff time. But also Patrick Beverly. Patrick
Yeah,
Beverly went to the Sixers.
Yes, he brings that dog. So what do you?
Yeah.
For those who don't know Pat Bev or whatever, why do you think he's gonna be good for the Sixers and what they're doing?
Because he like you said, he brings that dog, he brings that intensity. PJ Tucker, he brought some of that last year, but Pat Bev's gonna bring a little bit more, especially with that especially with Nick Nurse, and the way he likes to do things defensively. I think Patrick Beverly's gonna be a good addition. I think he's also gonna be a good guy for Tyrese Maxey to be around.
Mm. And that's what, like, the point you made, that the sneaky moves sometimes ain't about what they're gonna bring on the court. It's what they're gonna do for your young stars, what they're gonna do for your premier star, what they're gonna do off the court. Can they help set culture, right? Like it's in the new NBA. In some ways, I don't mind this new agreement where it's going to make it a little harder for people to get 3 stars on a roster, and do those things, because it forces you're going to have to really be thinking differently about how you build your team. You got to think differently about what the impact. But the Beverly move is a prime example of this new era, in a sense that he's going to bring the right kind of value, right? He brings we need to have a little enforcer, right? He's gonna bring that little enforcer attitude, especially for the big fella. So he ain't always got to be in it. He can knock down, a shot here and there when he need to. He got that Bruce Bowen. I can knock down it when I need to knock it down, right? He, for Nurse, who likes to play everything from a triangle and two to a boxing one, like nurses, like he drive you crazy. But with someone like that who is a geek on defense and who could be a disruptor, he adds that value. And then, like you said, he's
And he's
really
gonna
good
talk.
with, huh? We say,
And he's gonna talk.
and he's gonna
Because
talk.
when you play all those
Yes,
different types of defenses, you need somebody to put it,
yes,
somebody on the to be a
yep,
coach on the court to kind of put
yep,
it together and say,
yep,
hey,
yep,
you do this. You know what I'm saying?
yep,
I'm gonna do this. You
yep,
come up and you know what I'm saying.
yep, yep,
So yeah,
yep,
he's gonna be that Ed Reed, quarterback of the defense type of guy.
yep.
And another move we didn't say that just happened post draft for your Milwaukee Bucks. The Milwaukee Bucks picked up Drew Timmy.
Yeah. And I think that's another sneaky move. Ju, it, he was one of the best players in the country, and he could play. And I think in the pros, he's going to extend his range. But he got really good instincts in Boston. I mean, having him playing with Giannis, and he got a winning spirit, and he talks some junk too. But you get him and Bobby Portis in that crew, that could be the bench mob. You get them coming like that, and he's that the value of getting an older person. Like I remember, I think when the Zags came, Timmy was hurt. Like it felt like Timmy had been in college for like since Obama was president. But he bring that kind of stuff to the table. Like that is a great pickup. I think that's a sneaky move because I think he fits in the culture. He's a draft pick you play right away, and he has a professional approach to the game. And I think he only gonna get better as he extends his range with the other parts he has going for himself. Yeah, that's a nice little move, man. Oh, look at you. Look at you. Look at you. Look at
Yeah,
you. You up here. You up here doing your thing. Kyrie going back uh to
to Dallas.
Dallas. I think that was a good move. I felt remember I told you I just like that when I watched Kyrie in Dallas, I was like, this is a city for Kyrie. It's got stuff going on. When
Red
you can
State.
when you right when you can
No.
walk from the stadium to the huh? What you say?
I said Red State.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. It got a lot of that stuff going on, but
oh shoot.
Kyrie ain't impacted by that. It's got a lot of that stuff going on. We get into, but from a basketball standpoint, I mean, he walking from the stadium to his apartment or wherever his condo or wherever he's living. I mean, I just think it's outside the limelight. Plus, I think he and Luka can figure it out. They just got to get the right pieces around them. Um, to do it. Another sneaky move, man, and it might not pay dividends right away because you see how they're building their team. Is I just saw Patty Mills going to Oklahoma City. This tells me they think they can start making a move once they get all the healthiness, they get Holmgren back. That they think the ceiling for this group is pushing for the final playoff spot, kind of like almost like Sacramento did last year, but not all the way up. And in really challenging in the first round, really being able to make some moves. You need a veteran guard. You need some veteran stuff around there to mix in with some of these young cats who demonstrate they could play. That's another thing. I don't know how much you've been watching the CBA stuff. How do you, from where you see teams beginning to play this, when people are trying to position themselves before what they call the second apron comes in, where there's a little bit more restriction on how you can build your lineup, where taxation gets a little bit higher as start to get over some of these ceilings where people don't remember. Golden State was just paying the tax, but now they've made it prohibitive, even in Golden States and other places, to be able to these kind of hits you can play when you're they're moving towards that hard cap in a lot of ways if they're not already there. How do you see this beginning to shape um, how teams build it? You hear JJ Redick saying, there's a history of just success of building through the draft, which I'm seeing more teams do. How are you seeing the CBA beginning to influence this?
Well, Golden State. You saw Golden State get rid of Jordan Poole. I think a big part of that was getting him off the salary cap. Um, you see moves like that. Uh, Kyrie. with the Kyrie thing, the Lakers weren't necessarily all in on that. I think a big part of that was the cap as well. So you see moves on that side, and then you see other moves on the other side, like Russell Westbrook. He's returning to the Clippers, but he's
Eight
only
mil.
coming back on like an $8 million deal.
Yep.
Um, you know, they couldn't pay. They're obviously strapped against the cap, but you know, he wanted to stay there. He found a good fit for himself, so he chose happiness over money.
Yeah.
And so I think you're gonna see some moves like that on both ends of the spectrum. And then you got other teams like just like you have the salary cap, you also have the salary floor. So you see teams like with teams like the Rockets, like we talked about earlier with Fred VanVleet, he just cleaned up.
Yeah.
Like I forgot what the number was on him, but man, I think he had like got 160 million, something like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Tax free.
yeah, Desmond Bain got him 200 million. Man, you starting to see some really big contracts in there.
Yeah.
Jeremy Grant got $100 million deal.
Yeah.
Like,
And Bane's worth the investment. Like out of all the young
yeah,
guys, he seemed to be Mr. Act Right. And then Halliburton, it seemed like that
oh yeah,
fight. He got
Brooklyn Bank,
260 million. You know, uh,
man,
now Max Struess went to got a 4 year
Cleveland.
63 into Cleveland. Like Cleveland loading up. I think that's another move for a place like Cleveland. Giving them space and with what they got going on over there. I don't know if they're done making moves, but yeah, you're right. And I think what it does for people like Westbrook is that the market right sizes. Like he's not going to have it. He's forced into an $8 million. I don't know how many people he was going to get a deal that was much higher than that. That
Mm,
what do you think he's going to get? More than 8 million?
he can get more than 8 million. He can go to a team that's not contending. He can get a
Yeah, but I think they're all.
$12
I
million
think
dollar
they're
deal.
all in that. Like if you're trying to build for the future, are you bringing Russell Westbrook in for a huge contract? I don't think they're doing it unless they.
It
I,
depends
I
on
think
it depends on who you have. It depends on who you have
yeah.
on your roster.
I I think because of the way this is thing, people are really making. I think people like Russell will get squeezed in something like this because you got to really think that through. Like everything he's going like, are you going to get your return in the locker room? Like your return has got to be huge for you to give under the current constraints of Russell. I think, yeah, he might have got 12 million, but it wasn't worth going to do it for 12 million. Rather when he could stay home, be closer to family, right? But it wasn't going to be a difference between 8 million and 20 million.
You don't think San Antonio give him
San Antonio ain't
will
giving
open
that
up
much
for him?
money, not in that space. Nah, for what he does, I mean,
You got to realize the new
you,
basketball economy though.
but you got to manage Russ. Like if I'm going to manage somebody, and I'm trying to work with a
Well,
young boy like Wembanyama, like you got to manage Russ's emotion. That's that's an extra 10 million.
I don't know because he does well in those type of situations because he'll be starting. I mean, who's playing over Russ in that situation?
Yeah,
Nobody
but I'm not. You talking about in San Antonio?
in San Antonio,
They
and
ain't
he
bringing him. They ain't bringing him to
he
San.
give
They wouldn't bring him to San Antonio.
he's a good passer. He likes he Wembanyama will have a good year with Westbrook.
He
If you
could.
look in the
He could.
past, if you look in the past,
He is.
Bradley.
He is a version of Tony Parker. He got
If
some
you
Tony
look in
Parker in him.
if you look in the past, Bradley Beal had a career year with Russell Westbrook. Paul George had a career year with Russell Westbrook. Kevin Durant had a career year with Russell Westbrook. You know, he gets the selfish rap, but players
My
play
my
well with
my,
Russell Westbrook.
my thing is not Russell Westbrook's selfishness. It's the
Steven
emotion.
Adams.
My thing is it feels like it's not the selfishness. I would his passion is his passion. It's how it plays off. It's the tempo and pace of the emotion. It's doesn't have to be. It's time and place type stuff. But I've never seen him as being selfish because he's demonstrated he's willing to sacrifice for the team. My thing is what I've struggled with Russ is I'm gonna play my way because I'm gonna play my way. The fixed mindset. And Popovich is not a fixed mindset kind of person. Like, you got to be growth oriented. And Russ would be in a different place basketball wise if he had a little bit more of a growth mindset around the development of his game. His answer sometimes, and the worst thing is, I'm just going to keep doing what I do. When we all know there are times when evidence tells you got to pivot, you need to pivot. And so that's the only thing, and that's not a selfishness. That's just, this is how I got out the mud, and I'm gonna stick with it. So I ain't blaming it, but there's a cap to that. You see what I'm saying? So I'm not saying Russ is selfish at all. I don't think he is. I think selfishness would be missing games. Russ don't miss no games. Russ is always ready, always available. So ain't nobody, unless it was a real injury, Russ showing up. He might show up with half his shirt off, walking in with some kind of outfit you don't know about. You be like, where'd you get that from? But Russ, I want to make sure, Connor, my position is not about his selfishness. It's about the fit around growth. I think he's demonstrated a little bit of that these recent years, but it's not about selfishness for me. Yeah. Do you think? Hey, you've been watching the Pistons. You think Pistons? They got Monty Morris coming in. You think the Pistons are starting to build a little bit? What's their next? If you were to
No,
say success, I'm not saying what's success for them next year.
man. Like 10th seed to play. Well,
Yeah,
like that's
yeah,
just around the play in.
yeah.
But Joe Harris, he can shoot. I mean, they got guys, but I'm not really too impressed with anybody they brought in as far as free agents. It's cool to see Monty Morris come back, Flint Beecher. Respect that. But
Because I don't think I mean, their core, their stars are the young cats they got in the room. It's what veterans can do to help elevate those stars. I think that's where they're at in their development. Like, they ain't gonna bring in somebody who gonna I don't hope want to be the man, because they drafted who they want to be that. And those core guys, what's it, Dorn? So these core guys they need to grow. Once Cade comes back and they can kind of get that, Cade comes back and they can kind of get that group working. But I think the Pistons gonna make some noise. Like you said, I would, noise for me would be work for the 10th seed, right? What are you thinking? Winning 40 games, 45. What did they win last year?
probably
If I can,
20 something.
yeah. So if you can get closer to
Oh,
40 games, right? Start winning some games that you weren't supposed to win on the road. Start to establish a home court advantage. So if you win 40 games, can you win 25 of those at the crib? You know what I'm saying? Where now, you know, the you start to build a home court. Like, that's a tough place to play. You know, Veteran teams are coming in there. Boston comes in there and takes the L. Milwaukee comes in and takes the L because that's just a hard place to win. Like, they start establishing that home court, kind of like Sacramento did. Start establishing their arena and the culture. Because I think all great teams have to establish that their home court is dominant. That was my biggest worry about Golden State. Like, dang, you can't win at the crib, but you can win all these games on the road. Like, at a certain point, that piece is a really important for young teams. And then they can start winning some games on the road, right? They win a tough one, that no one expected them to win at Memphis, right? And they grind it out. So yeah, I think Detroit is going to be, if they can get everybody coming back the right way, it's going to be nice to see them um, pull it all together. All right, well, that's a lot. We're going to be tracking it. This free agency. Kind of seeing how it goes. Um, you know, Please, if you have a chance and you listen to this, let us know what some of your thoughts about free agency, who you think's got what, who you think messed up. Usually we'll do a grade, who we going to put on probation. It's still too early to tell who we might put on probation. We used to do that after the draft. Who's on the honor roll. We got that educational connection. So we usually do that. But if you know who you might put on probation, put that in the comments. Or if you want somebody what team you might put on the honor roll, let us know how you grade out some of these moves that's been happening with the draft and free agency. All right. we've been in this spirit. We've been in this spirit here lately. Um, where we want to give out flowers in a world where you know we striking down affirmative action, people's rights in a whole bunch of other places, and just um, it feels like we've gone back to 1953. I'm about to head over to Paris, where Wimbignana is made, hometown. They going they in the streets over there as well right now. Um, I feel like Paul Robeson right now, making my way from United States to Paris to get my mind right. W.E.D. Du Bois also made his way to Paris. But these times we got a lot of stuff that's going on out here. We trying to get people their flowers. We trying to let them know we see you, and we just want to know that we got something for you. So Darnell, and the drop the mic says, who you trying to acknowledge? Who you want to lift up? While we got a lot of people being torn down.
Well, speaking of being torn down, ESPN, they
Woo!
came out with their series of cuts. They've amongst the guys that have lost their jobs have been Todd McShay, um, Max Kellerman, Jay Williams, Keyshawn Johnson, and many, many, many others. Over 20 guys, that have lost their jobs at ESPN. But I'm going to highlight a guy from where we're from, Jalen Rose.
Mm.
Want to give my flowers to Jalen Rose because when I was in high school, I used to listen to Jalen Rose's podcast. Jalen Rose is be Jalen and Jacoby. Back when they were under the ESPN subsection project called Grantland. They used to do their a lot of basketball stuff with Bill Simmons and his Grantland project under the ESPN thing. I've been watching them for, like I said, over 10 years. Um, so uh, sad to see Jalen go. Looking forward to see what he can do in the future. Um, See if he still going to do his own podcast or something like that. But also Jalen is a guy in the community that he has, built his own school, the Jalen Rose Leadership Academy. He's a guy that he's done his part as far as supporting the community. So we're gonna do our part in supporting him. So Darnell dropping the mic.
Wow, that's a great one, man. And Jalen's gonna land on his feet. He's gonna get picked up. That the one thing about all of this is what it's going to do is redistribute the landscape. A lot of these folks who are talented is going to end up somewhere else. Some of them might get re-signed back, um, in different roles and in different at ESPN and y'all called RSG. We trying to build. We over here. We the underground. Like Suge said, if you tired of folks being all in the video, come see us. Come check us out a little bit and do what you can and do what you want to do. Who do I want to give a shout out to? There's so many different angles I could go with how where I want to give a shout out to someone. But I will go this way. I'm gonna go this. I'm gonna go this way. Rob Pelinka. 2 years ago, I think everybody was trying to get rid of Rob Pelinka and saying Rob was this and Rob was that. And I remember Jalen saying, there's more to the story. Jalen kept telling people there's more to the story. When they made the moves to bring Russ and all this stuff, and there's more to the story, and people had to be patient, and the stuff that was happening with Magic and everything else, there's more to the story. Well, Rob Pelinka, beginning with mid-season moves this year and what he's done in this offseason, you can tell there was a shift in the organization about whose voice is going to lead this. And, I'm not a big Laker fan, but, I believe Rob has a redemption story, at least on this one, in terms of setting his team up, making moves. This is a guy that I believe went to, obviously graduated from Michigan, went to, I think, B school, law school. This is a smart guy. people don't also understand he played basketball national championship team, knows the game. Um, Probably him and Kobe sat for hours talking about basketball. Guy knows basketball, and for it to be now showing up here in some of the decisions, the way he's able to construct this team and get his imprint around the team, it's something we all work for in these roles, right? And to see him begin to get his shine and recognition is a good thing, given all the criticism he received early in his tenure. So this is up to you, Rob. Congratulations. All right, y'all. Thank you for checking us out. Thank you for being with us here. Please make sure that you go and check us out at Real Sports Guys on all platforms. We out there in these streets. You can see us there. You can see us here. We out here in the streets. So just go and check us out on all platforms. And we'll see you on the other side.
Ready for the day the Lord called on me. My decisions, man, they all on me. I came with this way from Hey, yo, Neil. Hey, what's up? I got you. Got you.